On Tuesday, President Donald Trump offered to help Israel ethnically cleanse Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day. I don't see it happening. It's too dangerous for people. Nobody can go there. It's too dangerous. Nobody wants to be there. Warriors don't want to be there. Soldiers don't want to be there. How can you have people go back? You're saying go back into Gaza now? The same thing's going to happen. It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die, because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back?
Who would want to go back? I don't know, the people who call that place their home. I mean, imagine if somebody, and I hope this doesn't happen, right? But imagine if somebody like obliterated Florida, right? Or Miami, right? Or like Mar-a-Lago, okay? I'm pretty sure people who live there would want to come back and rebuild. I mean, it's not like they haven't been hit by hurricanes, okay? So many houses are just absolutely destroyed, obliterated. And they got to come back and they got to rebuild. And it's really difficult and it takes a lot of time, a lot of money. But they still come back. You know why? Because it's their homes. It's where they live. It's where they have created a life. Okay? Same thing for the Palestinians that were there. That's their home. It's where they created a life. Okay? Look, what he's talking about is nothing more than ethnic cleansing. Okay? And he said, we're going to take it over, which, you know what that means? We would be sending the military. Now, Trump's, the White House is like, oh, no, we're not going to consider sending the military. Then who are you going to send to disarm the weapons, to clean up the place? You'd be sending the military. There would be boots on the ground. Okay, that's who does that. And so, yes, if he went through with this plan, which is, ridiculous, bonkers, he would be sending our military into a foreign country. Okay, and I'm pretty sure they don't want us there. That said, how is this America first? No, this is Israel first. That's what it is. And by the way, you remember when he tried to do the funding freeze for the federal government and for foreign aid? The only thing that was not frozen was aid to Israel. Israel first. So that's who Trump is, right? And now that said, I'm not gonna avoid blaming Joe Biden as well. He was one of the people who helped turn Gaza into this hellhole. And of course, it's the right-wing Israeli government. You also had Hamas that had a role in this as well. Benjamin Netanyahu, obviously, President Biden, etc., along with the Democrats who kept voting to send Israel more and more weapons, which they were more than happy to use. So there's a lot of blame to be, spread around here, right? I think that Biden opened the door for Donald Trump, and Trump was able to run right through it and say, yes, I will help you with that ethnic cleansing. This is something that we were warning would happen if we didn't put some sort of limit on Israel, some sort of red line where say we're going to completely pull our support unless you start taking peace seriously. All right? He didn't do that. Now, Joe Biden was terrible on this issue. Donald Trump, slightly worse. Slightly worse. Okay? There were no good options here. Okay? But it's not like we didn't see this coming from Trump. It's not like he hadn't talked about it already. It's not like people around him didn't talk about it. Jared Kushner, for example, Trump's former director of Middle East policy, had said last year that Gaza could be very valuable waterfront property if developed. You know, but of course, in order to develop it, we got to get all the Gazans out, all the Palestinians out. And there was obviously no, plan to bring them back in. I mean, really? I mean, you think that they would be allowed to come back in? Maybe the wealthy ones. Oh, right. I don't think there are any wealthy Palestinians that were living in Gaza. Okay, because that place had been very, very tightly controlled by Israel, and so I don't think you would have very many wealthy Palestinians, especially ones who could afford to move back into this beautiful waterfront area resort that Trump and Kushner want to build, which would likely be annexed by Israel anyway. So, I mean, come on. Now, that said, his plan to remove millions of Palestinians from the area, possibly, again, using our military to do so, is facing pushback from Jordan and Egypt. Officials from both countries had already put out statements, this is from Jordan last week, that said that the country is committed to ensuring that Palestinians remain on their land. Our refusal of displacement is a steadfast position that will not change. Jordan is for Jordanians and Palestine is for Palestinians. That is Ayman Safadi, Jordanian Minister of Foreign Affairs. And here is Egypt's Foreign Affairs Office issuing their own statement saying that we reject the displacement of Palestinians from their land through forced eviction, which is ethnic cleansing. Such actions threaten stability, risk extending the conflict further in the region, and undermine opportunities for peace and coexistence. Okay, Israel and Jordan, we already kind of figured where they were going to be on this issue, but this next one is, well, it's going to hurt. Okay, Saudi Arabia, Trump's homeboys, okay, the Mohammed bin Bone Salman, okay, his government, Saudi Arabia, was like, no. They reject any attempts to displace Palestinians from their land, according to the Saudi Foreign Ministry. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia emphasizes that this unwavering position is non-negotiable and not subject to compromise. Achieving lasting and just peace is impossible without the Palestinian people obtaining their legitimate rights in accordance with international resolutions, as has been previously clarified to both the former and current U.S. administrations. So, yeah, Trump got a lot of money from the Saudis. Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis. So, of course, their input is going to be very, very important on the president. Okay, the current president. So, yeah. But they're not the only one that, is poo-pooing Trump's plan. Okay? You've even got people over on Fox News saying, guys, I don't know if this is the greatest idea.
The president knows when he says, we'll take Gaza. He knows the United States can't invade another country. The last thing he wants to do is put boots on the ground in Gaza. I mean, he is always, in his first term, he was talking about he would like to get out of every war in the Middle East. I think what he did yesterday I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt. I think what he did by saying, look, if we take over and we redevelop it, I think that's the first step in a negotiation.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the first step, but, it's still probably not a good idea. I love how he twists himself into that pretzel so that he can both praise Trump for being, super genius, right? Great negotiator, and also not support the forcible military removal of Palestinians so that Trump and Kushner could turn Gaza into a second Mar-a-Lago. Okay? He knows. You can't just invade another country. Really? I mean, Iraq and Afghanistan would love to have a word with you. Just saying. But again, Donald Trump very, very clearly not doing America first. He is doing Israel first. All right. Like pretty much every other U.S. president, yet somehow worse. And that's where we're at. This is clearly wrong. It's clearly ethnic cleansing, the forced removal of millions of people from their homeland with nowhere for them to go. Also, that wealthy developers can potentially make billions of dollars off of this development, and so that Israel could come in and eventually annex that area to increase their borders. It is absolutely grotesque and definitely not America first. 9 officials at the FBI have filed a class action lawsuit against Donald Trump's Department of Justice over the demands that they hand over personal information on officials who had worked on or assisted with the January 6th prosecutions. It's, of course, part of the Trump effort to punish anyone who prosecuted the Capitol rioters. And the lawsuit also comes after the Justice Department had ordered the FBI to hand over the information of all individuals who worked on the cases by Tuesday. It is, of course, past that date. It is Wednesday, and unfortunately, the FBI did comply with that demand. They handed over the details of nearly 5,000 employees who are now at risk. According to CNN, more than 5,000 employee details were submitted, including employee ID numbers, job titles, and their role in the January 6 investigations, but not their names. But that's still a lot of identifying information. Meanwhile, officials dispatched by Elon Musk, the shadow president, have been seen at FBI headquarters. What are they doing there? Why is this unofficial department, which is not actually part of the government, headed up by what is basically a super volunteer, okay, sending his government contracted employees, yes, because they have contracts with, SpaceX, XAI, etc. They work for Musk. Why are they going into FBI headquarters? Okay, why are they there? Do they have clearance? Do they have security clearance? Or have they been vetted? Why are they there? They shouldn't be there. They should be locked out. Of course, you'd have to have someone that actually will enforce that and lock them out. And instead, you've got congressmen that are locked out of different places, like USAID, for example. Okay. Now, that said, the agents that are suing, they have sued to try to block the Trump administration from publishing or releasing the results of a survey that they had been ordered to take. Survey. Okay. Now, the survey included questions about the positions, the Bureau, and the specific roles in the January 6th investigations, including whether they executed arrests, participated in grand jury investigations, or testified at trials, according to a copy of the survey included in the lawsuit. So it's very, very clear that they're trying to find anyone who worked on the January 6th investigations so they can get rid of them. They can punish them. They can purge them. Okay? Now, the lawsuit alleges that the very act of compiling lists of persons who worked on matters that upset Donald Trump is retaliatory in nature, intended to intimidate FBI agents and other personnel and to discourage them from reporting any future malfeasance by Donald Trump and his agents. So here's what's interesting about this, right? Understand that law enforcement, especially the FBI, they're pretty right-wing in nature, okay? The left and the FBI, we don't really have a great working relationship, okay? It's very antagonistic. That said, there are people there that do not agree with Donald Trump and his takeover, okay? I mean, yes, they agree with Trump on policy matters, right? On going after, different people, okay? The so-called criminals, right? But many of them still also value their oaths to the Constitution and haven't taken an oath of loyalty towards one particular president, okay? Again, these are career officials, right? That matters because what we're dealing with right now is an unconstitutional takeover and consolidation of power by Donald Trump, whom he will, once he's done with this, and or if he's allowed to finish this, then he will then direct these people who, will be loyalists that will fill these positions to go after his other political enemies that are not in the government. So that matters, okay? That is a dangerous thing that we are facing right now. And so having people stand up against it, that is a good thing, even if I disagree with them on policy, right? Now, that said, Trump also wants to purge law enforcement of anyone who will not enact his illegal orders. Okay, so that was another thing, right? Trump loves to give illegal orders. Now, last time, during his last administration, he was giving out illegal orders, but there are a lot of people in the government that were like, yeah, sure. We'll get right on that. And then they didn't do it. And so they want to make sure this time that, no, that does not happen. So they want to purge anyone who might actually be like, we're going to not do your illegal orders. Okay, that's what this is about. You don't purge law enforcement of people who do their jobs, okay, investigating crimes, pursuing justice, in this case against criminal rioters, unless you plan on replacing them with people who will allow you to do your own crimes. This is what we've been warning people would happen if Trump gets back into power. He does not care about law. He is lawless. He is a lawless president. Now, that said, CNN says that the FBI employees who for months have braced for massive changes with Trump's election victory have been surprised at attempts to punish agents and analysts who don't have a choice on which cases they are assigned. To which that I have to say, what, are you stupid? Stupid. What are you, like, were you not thinking? Did you not listen to the things that Trump was saying? He said, I'm going to come for people. Okay, I'm going after anybody who went after me. I'm going to come for him. You didn't think that, what, he was lying? You didn't think that he was telling the truth? Because he was. He was. Okay. Now, according to current and former agents, the moves to conduct a purge for them have been shocking. Not shocked at all, because it's exactly what he said he was going to do. Look, yes, he said he was going to go after the people who investigated January 6th, because January 6th was the dry run for his attempt to seize power. And now he has the power. He has it back. And now that he has it, he says, I'm coming for you. Why are you surprised? Look, I understand that Donald Trump lies constantly, right? But the thing is that really Trump only lies about how he was going to help other people. That's what he lies about. And he also lies about things that like, oh, I'm going to lie to make myself look good, right? But he's always telling the truth when he says, I'm going to come for my enemies, and this is what I'm going to do. I mean, that's it. That's why he's working on dismantling the law enforcement. He wants it so that no one will be able to investigate him or hold him accountable or stop him from doing future crimes. I mean, he's already immune from the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He just wants to purge everyone, okay, who wants complete and utter loyalty. That said, there's on Monday, a group of advocacy organizations got together. They represent federal law enforcement officials. They urge congressional leaders to prevent Trump from purging career FBI officials, to which, of course, Trump is not going to listen. The FBI Agents Association told members in an email obtained by CNN, do not resign or offer to resign. While we would never advocate for physical noncompliance, you need to be clear that your removal is not voluntary. So, yeah. Now, that said, getting back to the lawsuits here, of which there are many so far, okay? A federal judge actually recently granted anonymity to those who are suing the Trump administration that are inside the government. In a ruling, D.C. Chief Judge James Boasberg pointed to concerns raised by lawyers that the employees of the government face risks of harassment and threats by suing Trump. Such concerns are as troubling as those that typically justify pseudonymity, Boasberg wrote. However, in the FBI cases, the plaintiffs' names will be shared confidentially with the Justice Department, which, of course, that concerns me because, I mean, yeah, the Trump administration hates leakers. But what if leaking is good for the Trump administration? So I don't know. I am concerned. Now, that said, despite everything that's going on, you still have a lot of civil service workers that are fighting back in their own way. In fact, one VA worker said, if the administration's aim was to demoralize us, I would say that that has backfired. My colleagues and I are fired up, angry, and even more determined to hold on to our jobs, challenge the nonsense, and keep the good work to serve veterans. Other employees at different agencies said that they would still ignore and disobey unlawful orders. And that's very important, right? Because, again, lawful orders, that's one thing, right? Unlawful orders, of which he has been pushing out, that's completely different. You shouldn't follow or enact illegal orders. That's it. Now, these employees said, we take our oaths serious, the same oath Congress takes. We love our country. We believe in our missions. Others said, the people demonizing us have never served anyone other than themselves, talking about the right wing. They have never made an honest living. They have never punched a clock. They have never taken a reduction in pay for the opportunity to serve their country. Gainfully employed adults are being harassed and bullied by a convicted felon. Ain't that the truth? Now, that said, while some are fighting back, many are extremely afraid. One who spoke to Newsweek said that they'd worked for the Interior Department and its bureaus for nearly 30 years. He described morale as, quote, the worst I've ever seen in the federal government. Quote, I can say that 98% of all the federal employees are hardworking people who really do care about their work and their service to the public. The lazy government workers are few and far between. And this is, of course, the response to Elon Musk. Oh, I gotta, go after the lazy government employees and get rid of them. You know, that's what Doge is going to do. We're going to try and find savings by getting rid of the lazy people. And these career civil service people are like, actually, we work pretty hard. They also said, I can also add that the level of terror and paranoia is incredibly extreme. For example, many of my colleagues have spent most of the week scrubbing websites for any mention of DEI programs. Even the word equity is being removed from all internal and external digital platforms, which again is it's censorship. Okay, that's what that is. This is an order from the highest levels of my department. These workers are so scared that even one word that doesn't align with the Trump administration will result in firing. Another federal worker at DHS said the general mood is one of anxiety, distrust, and siege. Not a siege. Quote, we've always felt undervalued, sometimes thankless, but now I'd say it's shifted to being targeted. Well, that's exactly what's going on. Trump is targeting people all over the federal government right now. And, targeting them, trying to get their personal information in order to build these purge lists of people that they don't believe are going to serve the Trump agenda, which, of course, is to do crime. So, look, it's a horrid situation, okay, and a very dangerous situation. But at the moment, it's not too late for these people to continue to resist this takeover, okay? It is difficult, I understand, right? But there are millions of Americans out there, okay? The millions of Americans who voted against this nonsense, all right? The 75 million who will not sit back and watch Musk and Trump do a takeover, a hostile takeover, and shred the Constitution. And so just remember that. If you're a federal worker watching this, just remember, hold the line. Hold the line and remember your oath to the Constitution, not to one singular leader. A new damning report from ProPublica details how the data firm Cambridge Analytica had profiled gun owners and used that information to build a database of profiles to which they then used to target with political ads to help Donald Trump win the election in 2016. So, I mean, this is a huge violation of people's personal privacy. Okay, look, people's names, addresses, phone numbers, their registered voting status, and lots of other information was put into this database compiled by the gun lobby and was used for political purposes to help Republicans win elections. Again, massive violation of privacy. And it's something that even when you tell Republicans, all right, people that are Second Amendment enthusiasts, hey, by the way, you are on a list. You are on a list of lobbyists, all right, owned by lobbyists and shared by a data firm with politicians in order to target you with ads they think that you'll respond to. They'd be like, what? I do not like this at all. Okay. Now, it's funny because, I remember the days where the right wing was constantly going, I don't want the government to put me on a list. I don't want to be on anybody's list. I believe in freedom. I don't want this tyranny. I don't want to be on no weird list. Well, they say that the left wanted to put them on lists, right? But it turns out, no. Groups allied with the right wing, with the gun lobby, are the ones putting you on these lists with all of your personal information. Okay? People like Douglas, okay? ProPublica spoke to some of these people. One of them, again, Douglas loves guns. He loves the Second Amendment, as all these people do that are on this list. And he also loves his right to privacy. He said of the gun industry, hey, I like the idea that they're pro-gun advocates, which again makes sense, right? Because he's pro-gun. But he said, I don't like the idea that they're getting information possibly illegally to forward their agenda. You know why? It's because it's insulting to their intelligence, okay? Hey, you're an independent voter, okay? You're ideologically motivated because you want to protect the Second Amendment, right? And it's kind of an insult to their intelligence when you have these groups that need to micro-target you with ads to manipulate you into something you probably would support anyway, gun rights. But they use this information in such a way to mess with your mind, to give you information that is not true, okay? And I'll give you some examples of that, right? In order to manipulate you into voting for what's really in their best financial interests, okay? So now Douglas is one of the millions of people whose sensitive personal information was compiled over 2 decades by something called the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So it's not as big or well known as the NRA, but they're a very big force in politics, okay? They ended up working with some of America's most iconic gun makers and, retailers. So you got like your Smith & Wesson, Smith & Wesson. I don't know why I did that. I know the name, Smith & Wesson, and these other gun manufacturers working together with the NSSF, who then hired Cambridge Analytica to do all these targeted ads. The industry group assembled data on a collection of gun owners and others without their knowledge or consent in order to persuade them to vote in the industry's best interests, which again, the industry wants to loosen gun regulations, okay? That said, that works in the industry's, best interest because, hey, we get to sell more guns, okay? With less regulations, sell more guns. That's good for us. It's good for business, right? Whereas, I think the average gun owner is still going to be like, well, yeah, it makes sense to have some regulation. I don't want it to be a complete free-for-all. There are some out there, gun owners who do want a complete free-for-all, but I think most people are okay with, reasonable gun regulations, okay? Now, that said, the industry group that collected this data without their knowledge or consent did so to persuade them to vote in their interests, and the NSSF then credited that campaign with landmark victories that had basically curtailed some of the, most reasonable gun control efforts. Okay. And as a result, of course, we have mass shootings in this country literally all the time. Because we do not have really any kind of structured, comprehensive gun regulation. And there it is. All right. Now, the NSSF, based in Shelton, Connecticut, represents thousands of firearms and ammunition manufacturers, distributors, and retailers, along with publishers and shooting ranges. In 2016, as part of a push to get Trump elected for the first time and to help the Republicans keep the Senate, the NSSF worked with the consultancy Cambridge Analytica to turbocharge the information it had of potential voters. And so this is where it gets scary, how detailed this is. Along with potential voters' income, debts, and religious affiliation. They know your debts. Analysts learned whether they liked the work of the painter Thomas Kincaid and whether the underwear women had purchased was plus-sized or petite. What? Now, they took all that personal data, and that's just examples, right? They took all that information and they ran it through an algorithm and created psychological profiles that allowed for some very, very detailed targeting. All right. Potential voters were assigned one of 5 personality groups, which is risk takers, carers, go-getters, individualists, and supporters. And of course, once you did that, they would tailor a message to each group. Risk takers were viewed as highly neurotic and susceptible to ads that would, basically be targeted at what they're afraid of, okay, according to Cambridge records. Go-getters, on the other hand, would respond better to messages of optimism and the promise of a better future. So, for example, if you're a risk taker, right, you would be targeted with an ad that's tailored to scare the crap out of you. One example, Obama's coming for your guns. Oh, no, Obama is coming for your guns. He's going to take your guns. That's right. He's going to take your guns. And so what happened is that these ads went out, and the people who were the risk takers were like, oh my God, I need to vote for Trump because Obama's going to take my guns. Hillary Clinton's going to take my guns. I mean, even though they said Obama was going to take my guns, but he didn't. Over 8 years, this time Hillary Clinton's going to take my guns. Oh my God. I must vote for Trump. And all these pro-Second Amendment people. All right. Well, now, according to the report, the fierce susceptible risk takers were targeted with ads that introduced negative scenarios before providing a reassuring and authoritative tone. In Missouri, risk takers were told Senator Blunt is working hard to keep Obama from turning the Supreme Court into an enemy to your gun rights. So, again, using the fear of a black man, the first black president, to scare these gun owners into, voting for the best financial interests of the gun industry.
Obama.
There it is. Now, with that said, that's the risk takers. What about the go-getters? They were shown what appeared to be a father and son hunting together. Okay. In North Carolina, they were told, join us in thanking Senator Burr for opposing Obama's Supreme Court nominee to protect your future and your gun rights.
Obama.
Still using Obama, right? Nearly 817,000 people saw these ads, according to Cambridge's internal metric reports. The next 3 months, Cambridge blasted other ads and videos across social media, altogether garnering nearly 378 million views and drove more than 60 million visitors to the NSSF's website. So, did this work? It was extremely effective. Because, of course, you're dealing with psychology here, right? This whole thing was designed to get into your heads, okay? Get your personal information, find out what makes you tick, what you think, how you think, and to use it against you for their own financial interests. Digital tyranny, folks. Now, in a report titled Make America Second Amendmentable Again, Cambridge Analytica concluded that its campaign for the NSSF had encouraged nearly 10,000 more voters to turn out in Missouri, 7,744 more voters in Ohio, 6,979 more in North Carolina, and 4,743 more in Pennsylvania. Now, you might think, well, those are not huge numbers, guys. I mean, geez, you would think that it would be more successful than that. Well, however, when it comes to these votes, understand they contributed to the to victory for the NSSF's preferred senatorial candidates in all of those states. So that was a victory. That was enough. In fact, an NSSF report reviewing 2016 said after a long 8 years of President Obama, the firearms industry can finally operate without daily attacks from the Oval Office, thanks to the election of Donald J. Trump. Those daily attacks, really, are basically like, hey, we need something like, minimal to prevent more school shootings, which we seem to have a lot of right now. Maybe we should do something about that. Just saying. But no, that was too much, right? Daily attacks. Yeah, look how many dead kids there are. Apparently, pointing that out is an attack. But no, anyway. Furthermore, this is that report. Thanks in part to our efforts, there is a pro-gun majority in the U.S. House and Senate. And, thank goodness for that, because now there are dead children. The bodies will continue to stack up. Great job. Great job, everybody. Look, the question here is this legal? Probably not. But really, who is going to enforce anything, right? Now, experts said that the NSSF may have violated laws against deceptive and unfair business practices. Why? Well, companies have privacy policies, and if they violate their own privacy policies by, basically lying to them or omitting the fact that, hey, by the way, we are going to share your personal private information that you shared with us with, for political purposes, with campaigns, okay, with Cambridge Analytica, that is going to help Republicans, win these elections. And like you might be like, well, I was going to vote for those Republicans anyway. Yeah, even if that's the case, look how much they used you. I mean, like, these are dirty, deceptive practices. Full stop. I would feel violated, honestly. And now a ProPublica review of dozens of warranty cards from those gun makers found that none of them had informed their buyers that the details would be used for political purposes, for political campaigns. But as I mentioned before, the U.S. has pretty weak laws for privacy. They have weak enforcement for sure, especially now under Trump. They ain't going to protect your privacy at all. I mean, Elon Musk has our social security numbers. They've got all of this personal information now. If you've ever received a check, a tax refund, or anything from the government, guess what? 25-year-olds have that data. A guy named Big Balls has your data. Okay? Much less, like, I don't know, could it end up in the hands of Putin or President Xi of China or whoever else? Okay, Mohammed Bonesaw Salman, okay, having your information? It could be anywhere now because it's in the hands of someone who is unelected and unvetted, Elon Musk. So our privacy is pretty much gone now. That said, not only that, but the U.S. has no federal or state laws requiring companies to notify consumers and gain clear, specific, informed consent before their data is shared. So they can share the, like I said, the data with anyone and everyone and use it, of course, to monetize you as if you were the product. So that's a problem. Only handful of states, like California, have in recent years adopted any privacy laws that give consumers the ability to opt out of their information being shared. People who care about privacy, your hair should be on fire, even if you're right wing, especially if you're right wing. Having your information shared, again, doesn't matter if you were, supporting like pro-gun candidates, right? You should be mad that they abused your personal privacy like this when they were probably going to get your vote anyway. So there was no need to find out, what size of underwear your wife wears. Okay, that's creepy and invasive, and you should be pissed. I know I'd be. So that said, unfortunately, I don't see anyone involved facing any lawsuits or any investigations. Certainly, not by the Justice Department for violating this privacy and for creating these literal databases of gun owners that then were used to target and manipulate you with misleading ads. Okay. So, I mean, I don't see anything happening, but I still think it is important to know that the lengths that these industries and lobbying groups will go to fight against anything, any attempts at regulation that could impact their bottom line. The far-right group known as the Proud Boys have taken a huge L in court, being sued by a black church in Washington, D.C. over a trademark dispute. Oh, that's interesting. Now, Judge Tanya Jones-Bozier of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia's ruling gives the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church complete control over the name Proud Boys and their symbols, including the ability to monetize them as they see fit. So, right now, Proud Boys, the Proud Boys group, you're going to have to shelf your merch, okay? I know, you probably make a bank off that, but you're not going to be able to sell it right now. I mean, unless you want a copyright infringement suit, which could happen. Now, the judge awarded the trademark after the group failed to pay a $2.8 million default judgment given in 2023 when they decided not to show up in court. Yes, because, that's smart, right? Just don't show up and it all goes away, except that it doesn't. Oops. And then a church that you vandalized, that's the other part of the story that's great. A church that you vandalized is like, you know what? I'm going to steal your name. That's right. I'm going to take your name. Now what are you going to have? Nothing. Now the church, of course, could sell, transfer, or license to Proud Boys trademark if they want to. It's theirs now. While Proud Boys chapters across the country are no longer able to use the name or iconography unless granted approval by the church. And if they do, copyright infringement. Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, of course, the church had filed the suit after the Proud Boys members had vandalized their church during the violent December 12th, 2020 Million MAGA March. To which, of course, I say, whoopsie. I guess you get what you deserve. All right. Like, hey, what? Nobody told you had to vandalize the church, right? I thought that all these pro-Trump groups are just patriots, and that the real vandalism is from the black people, right? No, it turns out it's the opposite. Okay, it's the black people in their church that are getting vandalized by white Trump supporters. So that's great. Now, Proud Boys leader Henry Enrique Tarrio responded on Tuesday to the suit by accusing the church of engaging in a campaign of harassment and falsehoods, claiming the group was denied their due process and calling for the church's nonprofit status to be revoked. Oh, my due process. You hurt my due process. No, your due process was, hey, you got to show up in church, in court. Sorry. You got to show up in court. And if you don't, then you lose your due process, because you could have argued that in court, but instead you didn't. Okay. So you denied yourself. Congratulations. You played yourself. And Also, you had attacked 4 black churches. So, and yeah. Now, the group, which included Tario, John Turano, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, and Jeremy Bertino, according to the judge, acted with an evil discriminatory motive based on race. Yes, that's right.
The Republican Party's racist.
Just saying. That's according to a June 2023 ruling by D.C. Superior Court Judge Neil Kravitz. He said that their conduct was reprehensible to an extreme degree. Are we surprised? Shouldn't be. This was the same guy who was convicted of seditious conspiracy and had been spending time in prison. He got 22 years for his role in the January 6th Capitol attack. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had released them all. He's like, I don't know, F it, let them all go. What? What are you doing? What are you doing? So he gets into power, he lets all the criminals go. The criminals and the racists. The people who literally go out and attack black churches. But that's who he is, by the way. And that's who these guys are. They attack black churches and then cry victim when the church retaliates in its own way. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.